Alright, we're back for part 2 of Factor for Home Winter 2012, and basically left off talking about, Voodoo's Brew and Brandon and I, what happened there. So that was a pretty successful thing that we did this year, and I'm really proud of that show, and, I'll always have good memories about it because it was a lot of fun to do. We also had a couple of run-ins, you can say, I oppose to calling them fights because I think that that's stupid on YouTube with the freaking internet, but we had some scuffles, some disagreements with a couple people this year that resulted in some happenings. Probably the most notable was, of course, the scuffle with the Air Lord during the Resident Evil Raccoon City co-op, 4-player co-op playthrough that we were doing. And, I had problems with him for a long time. He and I never got along, really. And I feel like that he really insulted me and disrespected me a number of times. And we were all kind of having problems with him. And he just started, during that playthrough, that session, he just started to be a real pain and a real problem, and acting like he was running the show, and basically more or less telling us that we had to follow his schedule of doing stuff, and we had just pretty much at that point had enough, and so we stopped doing the playthrough with him, and he obviously didn't like that. We didn't really care. By we, I mean myself, Brandon, and Travis, TGP Gaming. We just stopped doing it, and he didn't like that, but whatever. We were done at that point. I certainly was done with dealing with him and all that kind of stuff, and it needed to happen because, as I said, we always had problems with him, and I really don't like him, didn't like him, but I kept trying to be friendly to him, to do co-op playthroughs and stuff like that, because, to be very honest with you, I thought it would be good for my channel. I mean, he had a lot of subscribers coming in after he, basically got cozy with DSP, and so he got a lot of subscribers that way, and, I just thought it wouldn't hurt, if we, it was co-op games and stuff that we were doing anyway, and, I figured it wouldn't hurt to have somebody with, some nice viewership. This was back when I really cared, I should say, about, I want all these subscribers and everything, and I figured at the time that, it wouldn't be a bad thing, but it got to the point where, I would have rather had 2 subscribers, than deal with him and all that kind of stuff. So that's the way that ended. Another really weird thing was that guy Dan, that was Travis's friend, over YouTube, and we did the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer demo, 4-player, myself, Brandon, Travis, and Dan. I had a blast when we were doing it. I thought it was hilarious. I loved it, and everybody else seemed to, unfortunately. I found out that behind my back, Dan had been saying some really nasty stuff about me, and saying how he couldn't stand me, and he hated me or whatever, didn't like me, and, who knows why that happened. Just weird randomness. I barely even knew the guy. I mean, I only knew him because Travis knew him, and we did the multiplayer together. That's the only reason I knew who he was. Apparently he really didn't like me for some reason and talked about me behind my back. So I said, whatever, I don't need this is stupid. It's freaking YouTube. So I just haven't done anything with him since then either. But that was really about it as far as the online scuffles with people. That stuff's gonna happen. You're gonna have people who take this YouTube thing way too seriously, and I feel that that's really what happened with the Air Lord. I think that he personally, I think that he takes this thing a little too seriously and acts as if it's his profession, even though for him it's not. It's a hobby like the rest of us. And and I think that he really, I don't like his attitude. I think personally he's got a giant ego and thinks that he's better than everybody else. But that's just the way it is. You're going to run across people like that in life, and you just say okay, and you look the other way and move on. And that's exactly what I did. In my opinion, I probably should have done something or ended that relationship a lot sooner than I ultimately did. But it is what it is. As far as like that guy Dan goes talking about behind my back and all that stuff, it is what it is. Like, those people exist in the world, and you just have to look the other way and move on and not deal with them, which is ultimately exactly what I wound up doing, and I'm a lot better for it. But that's pretty much as far as that went. And that's pretty much what happened on YouTube this year. And really, ultimately, the stuff that I found out and the stuff that I've dealt with this year on YouTube has really, brought about these changes that I've been talking so much about that's going to happen at the start of next year, 2013. Excuse me while I unzip this. Which we will talk about a little bit more in depth. Some of those changes and what's coming. But before I do that, I want to talk about the year in gaming. From a gaming standpoint, what did I think about the games that came out this year? Was I impressed? Was I disappointed? That kind of stuff. And overall, I have to say that the overwhelming feeling that I have is of disappointment. I think this year was ultimately not a good one for video games, and I think it was really a dud. And that kind of more or less seems to be the consensus, among a lot of people, a lot of gamers and such, is that this year was just a dud. It wasn't good for gaming. And it's really a shame, because this was my second year on here, and I was really excited about some of the games this year, and they just didn't turn out well. And it's not like it was one particular part of the year. It was really the entire year. The bad games, the disappointing games kind of started, and didn't end. Twisted Metal was really the first one that I played that was like horrendously bad. And I know there's a lot of differing opinions on that game and whatever, but I thought the game was horrible. I had no fun with it at all. And I was really disappointed by that. But there were a lot of really bad games that I played this year, like Operation Raccoon City. That game was terrible, accentuated by the fact of all the problems that we had with the co-op. And, some of the other ones that were really bad, Syndicate. That game was god-awful. I was under the impression after the demo that the game was mainly a co-op campaign-based game. And, little did I know that the co-op was actually a completely separate mode from the campaign, and it was horrible. And it was brutally difficult on the normal difficulty, and it just sucked. And because of that, I had absolutely zero intention or desire, for that matter, to play the single-player campaign, which I never did, because I was like, this game sucks. I'm not wasting any more time playing it, so I didn't. So really, it was just kind of a big dud in my book, as far as gaming goes. And but there were some really good games this year that did come out. Darkness 2 was the first game that came out this year, and I really thought that that game was good. I really enjoyed it. Probably one of my favorite games of the year, and really was good. And I said, oh, this is a good start, for the year, because this is actually a good game, and I have hope now that the games this year will be good. And unfortunately, that hope was dashed pretty quickly, because it was not an enjoyable year for games overall. And there's still a lot of games that I have to finish, but that I'm really enjoying. I mean, Darksiders 2, I really like that game. I mean, it could get repetitive and, a little boring at times, but for the most part I thought it was a good game. I have to beat that game. Borderlands 2 I was really enjoying when I stopped playing. Dishonored is definitely, probably right now, one of my top 3 favorite games of the year. I really like Dishonored, and I'm really excited to jump back into that game. Assassin's Creed 3, it's hard to tell because I played like 4 hours into the game and I'm still in the freaking intro to the game. I haven't even really gotten into the meat of it, so it's hard to tell with that game, but I'm assuming I'm going to enjoy it as I play more. So there's a lot of these games that I'm really looking forward to and to finishing. And so there were some good things, a lot of bad things. Resident Evil 6 for one. I know there's a huge division on that game, and I know I'm not going to ever beat it or do a review of it, but let me just tell you that Dave and I tried to play that game co-op and quit because the game was like 20 hours long, the gameplay was grueling as hell, there was 1,000 quick time events, the graphics suck, and in my opinion, the game was bad, like pretty bad. There were some good things about it, like the story elements, but for the most part, in my opinion, the game sucked because the core gameplay was terrible. You felt clunky as hell trying to move your character. The aiming was atrociously bad. The camera was awful. The quick time events, they just were random. You would die multiple times from random deaths, from stupid instant quick time events, which were really dumb. The gameplay I thought was awful. So I really didn't like Resident Evil 6. I know a lot of other people have different opinions on that. That was just my opinion, and I'm sure Dave shares the same opinion. We could not take 20 hours of that game, for damn sure. So, alright, this video is done. Time's up. So I will come back, and I actually need to pick up some school stuff and get some of that stuff picked up and in order because it's all spread out from me studying for finals week. So I'll be right back, and I'll be actually right up in the camera's face probably when you see me next.